Raymond, sorry, Winston, on the surface of it, yes, that's what should be happening, and that's what we'll aim to do. However, we are where we are. We are currently at that rate. So that's a fait accompli. It's already happened. The last 80 years have brought us to the stage. The issue now is how do we move from here? How do we move from 16, as you've said? An appreciation in itself is a double-edged sword. It could affect, exports, but where we are now makes exports very attractive, and therefore the aim now is to feed into the export, create a good foreign reserve buffer for our nation, use the export again to create jobs for our people, and to improve the economy. Once you do that, you will start to see a reasonable appreciation of the local currency. It will come naturally from feeding into exports. So that will happen. I think that with the kind of policies that we have in mind, the 24-hour economy, the Women's Development Bank to support women strongly in the SMEs, the National Apprenticeship, the Jumara program, the digital initiatives, agriculture for jobs, and rapid industrialization also for jobs, we will begin to see a sudden growth that will impact the city. It will naturally give the city a chance to appreciate to a good level without affecting exports. Because yes, exports will bring in the foreign reserves, but if we are encouraging domestic supply and domestic demand, then we'll be self-sustainable, which will be important. So we'll see those econometrics falling into place, affecting the microeconomy and making sure that people are beginning to have a better standard of living, a better cost of living. Okay. So that will happen naturally as we resolve the macro very quickly under the IMF program. Fortunately, that has begun, so we'll continue that. And then emphasizing on the micro, and those are some of the things I just listed, the job creation initiatives, the 24-hour economy, the Women's Development Bank, and all that. So all that will go on. Now, to help expedite the macroeconomic stability, we will seriously look at cutting expenditure. Because as I think you have discussed several times, if we are taking off some of the taxes and reviewing the VAT, then there may be a gap in tax revenue. But we are hoping that there will be a massive increase in non-tax revenue, and also that the cut in expenditure, which will be managed by the GIFMI system, if you remember, the Ghana Integrated Financial Management Information System. If it's managed prudently, properly, and it will be, because the next 4 years is about resetting. It's not about showing off. It's not about trying to please too many people, but it's about resetting the economy so that it can do well going forward. So your point about the city appreciating, that will happen invariably. It will happen when there's employment, when local supply is meeting local demand, that is, we reduced imports and we are able to export in a way that we can have a good buffer. If you recall, we had started to have good buffers in our Ghana Investment Infrastructure Fund, in the sinking fund, which is our debt service reserve fund, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. So we had a good buffer there as well, and we were doing well with the other buffers that we had to support the economy, like the stabilization fund. Petroleum funds were coming in. Again, we are going to have to be careful that most of our non-tax revenue, which comes from the sale of our natural resources, that we are able to also have some influence on the international pricing of this. And we'll think about how to have this influence. Because over time, we're also a growing nation. We should have a say in some of these prices: cocoa, gold, oil, gas. And in fact, we are going to need some of these things for local demand, especially gas for energy. So in the energy sector, we're going to see us using more and more gas. We most likely will have the second gas plant. And we are making sure that we put that in place. We put the first one in place. We'll put the second one in place. We'll make sure that The ENI Sankofa field that is producing more gas is properly in place, plus any other partners that will come in, properly in place to supply that gas. Energy is going to be key for the 24-hour economy policy that we are promoting or encouraging. So as for energy, we can't mess around with that. We have to make sure we are producing enough. And if you remember, we had overcapacity when we're leaving office. We'll make sure that any excess coming out of GridCo through ECG, it goes into the West African power pool. And
before we move